Hey everyone, Scott Cunningham, aka Scott's Business. Today I want to talk to you guys about the real thing, in my opinion, that people don't understand about crypto isn't actually blockchain or cryptocurrency or any of that. It's actually that people lack a true understanding of fiat currency. And by fiat currency, if you're new to this, fiat currency is just regular sovereign currency. So as a Canadian dollars, US dollars, that's fiat currency, like regular traditional money. The reason that I'm saying this, and I've pointed a lot of these things out in previous videos. So previously I talked about how from 1913 to 2013, the US dollar lost about 95% of its value. A lot of people don't understand that regular money it's not really backed by anything anymore. A very, very long time ago, it was taken off of the gold standard, and originally they were printing money to represent gold that was in vaults. Eventually, they started inflating the money, meaning that they were printing more money than there was gold, and it wasn't a 1-to-1 ratio or whatever the original ratio was. It wasn't kept to be the same way, because sometimes they would need more money, or whatever it might be. Once they got off of the gold standard, the value of the dollar decreased. And because there was no supply cap ever set, there was no limit as to how much they could do this, it infinitely will trend towards zero as long as there's inflation. A low inflation rate is really, really good, but it's still trending towards zero. Regular sovereign currencies start at 100% of their value, and then they go down. And they'll only ever go down. They might go up based on, different things happening in the economy. When there's a strong economy, it might be better. Once they lower inflation, it might be better. But it's always in the long run trending down towards zero. Most people don't understand that if they put money in the bank and say they're getting 1% interest, if the inflation rate is 1.8 per year, they're actually losing 0.8% of the value of the money that they're saving, or they think they're saving. So there's an old saying where people say, don't save to save, save to invest. Because naturally, if you really look at the way that fiat currency is set up, if you save to save, you're more than likely losing money. Or you're just making yourself lose the money more slowly. Like if you just have it and it's not gaining any interest, you're just losing that money slowly. And if you're getting a little bit of interest, but it's still below the rate of inflation, you're just losing it less slowly. And when people say, oh, like that was worth $1 million back in the day, today that would be $1 billion. Isn't that insane? It's like, yeah, but that's not a good thing. The only reason that a million 100 years ago would worth $1 billion or whatever it might be today is simply because the value of money has gone down and there's just more printed, but the actual value is way, way down because the prices are way, way up of everything in relation to inflation. And it always seems weird to me that so many people are ignorant to this. I was talking to a coworker today and she was like, yeah, but if cryptocurrency can just be created out of thin air, then how does it have any value? Well, it's the same as fiat currency. They print fiat currency as they please. The Federal Reserve, most people don't know this as well, isn't run by the government at all. It's called the Federal Reserve to sound like it's run by the government, federal, but it's completely privately owned. And I think it was just a week or two ago that they printed about 25 billion more dollars for the US dollar. And that just goes to show you, it's like, where is that coming from? Did they acquire 25 billion more dollars worth of gold? Absolutely not. Everything, all the wealth was the same. They just inflated very heavily for a bit. And people need to realize this, because that is how you understand why cryptocurrency has a lot of value, because almost all cryptocurrencies, not all, most, have a supply limit, and they have hard-coded in what their inflation rate will be. So currently, Bitcoin's inflation rate is like 3 point something, and when it halves next, it will go down to 1.8, around there. I can't remember. I mean, I made a video on this like a week ago. I should remember, or it was like 2 weeks ago. But the point being that it's hard coded in. No one can just artificially change that. Also, there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in existence. There's a limit of how much can exist. There is no limit to how much US dollars, how much Canadian dollars can exist, meaning that inflation will continue to make it lose value, and it will keep trending towards zero until eventually it might crash one day, or we've figured out that cryptocurrency and things with set limits on how much you can create is the future. Because like gold, there's only a limited amount of gold. You can't artificially create more gold unless you try to counterfeit it. And there is a lot of counterfeit US dollars and Canadian dollars. Another thing that's solved in cryptocurrency is that there is no counterfeit cryptocurrency, because the blockchain, the way that it's set up, it prevents there from being counterfeit currency. So again, increasing the value because it can't be counterfeited. When there is the ability that, or the capacity for people to counterfeit money, naturally the value of the actual money goes down because it's not unique enough. And again, it really shows that it doesn't have the intrinsic value, because it should be very, very challenging to just make more. But people can fake it and get away with it. And because that's possible, it devalues the money. So the fact that counterfeiting money is possible devalues the money. The fact that there will never be a supply limit to how much sovereign currency can be created devalues the money, because there's no scarcity, there's no limit to how much they can just keep making more out of nothing. There's no value, there's no wealth that it's representing. They're just creating more and more, and they're spreading it thinner and thinner, thus devaluing it more and more and more. And that's essentially what inflation does. But the point of inflation is so that there can be more available representation of the wealth to go around, but they're devaluing the wealth by doing so. And the whole scam that a lot of people used to think was kind of a conspiracy, but is much more well known today, is that the Federal Reserve can print all this money, and they'll just have this money and they're good to go. But everyone else has to deal with the ramifications of that. All the prices of everything will go up to reflect that. They still got all their money, but everyone else has to play catch up, and they have to deal with the ramifications. So essentially what people have come to understand is that the average person is paying for the interest or the inflation that they are controlling. It's basically the same thing in Canada, but it's largely linked to what's going on in the US. I mean, our economy heavily relies on theirs. And it's basically the same thing in many, many countries. It's not always in like the United States, where a private company is able to actually control the sovereign currency of the country. It's really weird that that's the case and how that ever came to be. But regardless, that's what we have now. And the whole point of this video is pointing out that it's not that people don't understand crypto and they don't understand, where's the value coming from, because the value is created in how challenging it is to create, because you can't counterfeit it, because there's only a certain amount that's ever going to be there. The inflation rate and everything is hard coded in. It's also completely transparent. So you can see how much Bitcoin is in existence today, how much will be in existence tomorrow, how much was in existence 193 days ago, how much was in existence 5 years ago exactly. You can never know that for sovereign currency because it's not, they don't track it, and we don't know, and we don't know how much is counterfeit. So the lack of knowledge about it, again, devalues the sovereign currency. So it's not that people don't understand cryptocurrency. It's that they don't understand what fiat is. They think they understand what fiat is, but their lack of understanding of regular fiat currency is exactly what prevents them from grasping and fully understanding what cryptocurrency is and why it's valuable and where the value comes from. Cryptocurrencies tend to start at a very low value, and over time they trend up based on people using them and realizing that they are scarce and that there's only going to be a certain amount. It depends on the cryptocurrency, but we'll just use Bitcoin as an obvious example. Originally, Bitcoin was worth, 0.00001 cent. And when more and more people started to use it and adopt it as a currency, it gained more value because as my previous video, I think the name of it was money is based on, or like wealth is based on faith and attention, because it's really whether or not you believe that other people are going to have faith in this currency. If I have faith that Bitcoin can get me, this meal so that I can eat because I need to be able to acquire food, and if I can't do that with Bitcoin, then it doesn't have a lot of use to me. And if a lot of other people don't see it as valuable and they're not accepting it for the value that I want to trade it at, then it doesn't have value. But because so many people are they do value Bitcoin, and they've put all this fiat currency into Bitcoin, it does have value. It's about $10,000 US. I haven't checked lately, but that's around where it's at. And the point being that it's likely to continue going up over time. I'm not actually suggesting any price points. I'm not making a prediction or saying this is, 100%. But if you look at the history of any cryptocurrency that hasn't, outright been a project that outright failed or was abandoned, over time, they generally trend upwards. Sovereign currencies over time trend towards zero because they don't have limits and everything else that I explained. So again, it's really that people don't understand or just never bothered to really look into how fiat currency works and how inflation works and how the wealth is actually represented. And because they don't understand that, they can't understand cryptocurrency because they don't understand the problem that cryptocurrency solves. And that's why the average person doesn't see the value, or they don't see why it matters, because they don't see that it's solving a problem, because they don't understand that there was a problem to begin with. That's why the people who are just saving, they're losing money. They're losing their wealth. It's going down. It's inflating. If you're unlucky enough to live in a country with a very high inflation rate, and you're like, wow, I'm getting such a great interest rate, but it's still lower than the inflation, you're losing money. You're always losing money. There might be more currency representation, like the numbers might be higher, but so is going to be the prices of everything else. And everything is going to reflect that you're actually losing wealth in the long term. With a lot of cryptocurrencies, typically in the long term, they gain wealth because more and more people are adopting them and using it. And again, today or tomorrow, everyone could sell their Bitcoin and it could crash, right? But it would be the same thing of if everyone started to sell gold, it wouldn't necessarily crash because there would be other people buying it, and there's only going to be a certain amount. So it's backed by the fact that there's a scarcity. And for example, with oil, the prices of oil is always going up because we're using it up, and there's less and less and less, and there's only ever going to be a certain amount. We can't create oil. So oil has a lot of value. And it's the same with anything else that is very scarce. There's only a certain limit. The things that are most valuable in society today, like diamonds, like gold, like things that are very, very scarce, oil, very scarce, very hard to acquire. You can't fake it. You can't counterfeit oil. It's not useful. People would know, because if it didn't work, if you couldn't put it in your car and drive your car, then obviously it's not oil, right? You can't just give someone water with black ink in it. So the more challenging it is to counterfeit, the more scarce it is, the limit that it has. This is what gives the value. So again, when someone tells you that cryptocurrency doesn't have value, or like, why doesn't it have value, or I don't get why there is value, it's that they really don't fully understand the value of fiat currency, or why fiat currency is valued the way that it is. And this isn't like a condescending, like, you don't get it. It's to explain as to why people don't have that general understanding of cryptocurrency, and why it eludes so many people, because it's like, why bother? What's the point? It's not solving anything. Well, actually, it is solving something. You just weren't aware of the problem to begin with that it is solving. And it's not like you weren't aware because it doesn't matter. You just weren't aware. And that's fine, because now you know. And if you think this was beneficial, please share this with other people to help explain to them why crypto has value, and why they might have not understood why it has value, and what fiat currency really represents. I also have another video of where I went over the graph explaining how fiat currency has gone down. So a lot of this is very similar, but I really, really wanted to focus on the point that it's not that people don't understand crypto. It's that they were never taught what fiat really meant and what it really was valued at. Thank you for watching. If you watched all the way to the very end, make sure to comment #1ham. And don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. You are awesome. I hope you have an amazing day. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scotty Business, signing off. Cheers.